fan cams, club news, transfer news, match previews, legend interviews, Spurs winning, press conferences, covering everything Tottenham and England.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this episode, we'll be talking about your questions and your comments. This is another episode of the viewers and listeners' questions and comments. Really enjoyed doing a lot of these so far, and I've got another super guest with me today. We are live on YouTube, live on X and live on Facebook, so please do get involved. Give us your thoughts on how you are feeling as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now. Now, joining me today is channel regular, legendary musician and Spurs fan, Jah Wobble. Jah, great to have you here. Thanks for being here. How are you?
Yeah, well, been a great year. Everything, American tour, everything's fantastic. Book came out again and all that. I've got some time off finally this last couple of weeks. And everything's fantastic, and Tottenham spoil everything as they always do.
Joe, you mentioned there you've had a busy year. You've had a busy couple of months. You've been on tour. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, we toured America. We've done Italy, Belgium. We've got a UK tour starting October, going into November. So we're all over the shop. It's not as big as the tour to start the year, but it's quite a few shows. And I've got a new album with Horace Andy coming out in a couple of weeks as well, the reggae legend. That's a real honour for me to be on that. And so, yeah, everything's good. But unfortunately, I'm a Spurs fan, which means I'm always going into bouts of depression.
See, Joe, I want to talk about your music career and you want to go straight into talk about Tottenham. As we mentioned off air, these shows have been extremely popular lately. A lot of the Spurs fans wanting to get a lot of stuff off their chest by asking questions and writing many comments. We've had thousands of comments in. Let's go straight into it. Let me ask you a question first of all before we get into the viewers and listeners' questions and comments. How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan? What have you made of the 3 games so far in the Premier League?
Oh, God almighty, where'd you start? Have we seen this before? Tottenham teams having lots of possession away from home, playing pretty football. But from the word go, they're going to get beaten. They're going to get beaten. And so it wasn't any different to some of the teams, sometimes the football I saw in the mid-80s when we played great football. We had that 5-man midfield, Allen up front, got 49 goals that season. And we didn't win anything, I don't think, that year. I think we come second in the league. Everton won the league that year. Played great football, and we even that team didn't defend as badly as this team can do on occasion. This also reminds me of the Ozzy Ardiles era of management at Tottenham. Which I see you smiling, Chris. I
said it yesterday.
I remember we played away to Man City during that era, and I think we got beat 5-2 or something. And I literally remember looking at the pitch, and we didn't have a defence. We had no defence. We literally didn't have a defence. Everybody was up front. Everyone was up the field. So I don't know. It's too easy. This guy Ange got a philosophy. That's not some of the football we play.
We've just lost Jar at the moment. We'll get him back. But please do put your comments and questions.
Leicester away, some really good football against Everton. I went to the Everton game, playing some great football. But you look at the pitch and you see 2 centre halves almost in the other team's half. And you see an acre of space where our fullbacks would be, And so you're playing this great football and you can see the other team is just waiting to pounce and hit you down the channels, Yeah. It's very difficult to sit there and watch it. Now, we all knew, I'm sure you did, you knew Newcastle would break away and get the winner, Maybe when Solanke's back and we start converting chances, I'm sure if we end up winning these games 3-1 and 3-2, everyone will be happy, But I just don't know in the Premier League against the quality of opposition that you can get away with this type of football. You know, not necessarily attacking possession-based football, but just, you know, not that's fine, but you have to have some defensive cover, surely. You know, that bothers me. You know, I'm not sure exactly what the answer is to that. Do you play one of the fullbacks slightly deeper? You know, what do you do? Do you maybe not have play so much up the field? If you don't press up as much as that, then it's harder to keep the ball in the other team's half, I suppose. You know, so it's difficult. Yeah. You know, I guess time's going to tell over the next couple of months. We're going to have to start picking points up. We know if we get beat by Arsenal, especially if we get caned at home in the next game, the pressure's really going to be on. And if we you know, we don't pick up points by the time, you know, we're not on some sort of a roll by the time November comes round, I fear the worst. You know, I really hope that doesn't happen. This guy obviously he's an ideologue. You know, he's got his belief in his system. He's not going to change that, and I hope he makes everyone, any doubters, eat their words. I really do. I'd love to be completely wrong, and it goes on to dominate this league the way it did the Scottish Premier League. You know, that's
you sound completely different
at the moment. You know.
Yeah, you sound completely different to when you was last on the podcast. Have you still got 100% faith in Ange Postecoglou? Because it doesn't sound like it. We'll get Jah back. I think we're having a couple of internet problems. But please do get your thoughts in, get your comments in, and you know, let us know how you're feeling as a Spurs fan right now. We'll get Jah back. Jah, I was going to say, you seem to have changed your attitude completely towards Spurs and Ange Postecoglou. Are you still behind the manager?
Yeah, you have to be. You know, you got to be. It's early days. I'm expressing doubts, you know, that a lot of fans have got. You know, you just felt Newcastle were likely to do a smash and grab. I felt at half time against Leicester, I could clearly see Jamie Vardy getting a brace of goals, and he nearly did. You know, he got the one. So you just have doubts about this, and you look at our away form, especially under Ange. You know, I think 18 games is it? I think we haven't won away or something. It's quite a time. You know, it's not great. We're conceding lots of goals. Obviously, there's been lots of injuries. Players are getting used to this way of playing. Some of the injuries are probably down to the new way of playing. You know, for the vast swathes of the games against Leicester away and Newcastle away at the weekend, it was wonderful football, wasn't it? It's great football, playing great football. Maddison's looking like he's turning it on again. Bissouma looked good. You know, I thought Johnson, who disappointed me in the Leicester game, I thought he was very good when he come on as a sub against Newcastle. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah. So I still you have to back the manager at this point. You know, it's very early. And it could be, you know, some people's view, obviously, is if we start taking some of those chances, we wouldn't be worried about the defence. But I think I'd still be worried about the defence because certainly against the best teams in the Prem, they all look obviously just to sit back, draw Tottenham on, and then hit them on the break. That kind of football, it worries. One of my concerns is this type of football where you know the pressing game and that kind of possession game, where you base everything on that, is maybe getting slightly out of fashion. You know, there was interesting talk with some of the pundits over the Liverpool game. Klopp, you know, that style of football can wear players out. It's so intense, and you see under Slot, Liverpool seems to be playing a more economical, thoughtful game. Arsenal, where they were definitely a possession-based team, I don't particularly think of them as a possession-based team. They can be against weaker opposition, but they can also sit deep and hit on the counter, you know. And also, you know, they're likely to score from dead balls, where this is just another random thought. For all the corners we've had over these 3 games, which must be like 30 corners, we've got the 1 goal from Romero against Everton from the corner, right? you know. So we're not doing great with it, with the amount of corners we're getting. We've got a few tall fellas, should maybe be doing better there, you know. So at the moment, it's a conundrum. The good points are very clear. We're great on the ball. We're great coming forward, and that's fantastic. The team looks balanced, so there seems to be a balance now with Ange's team. You know, he's starting to get the players he wants, and there's definitely a balance to the team. You couldn't say what Ange is doing makes no sense. You can see what he's about. You know, on the downside, with not scoring goals, it'll help when we got both our number 9s fit again. Always, you know, Solanke didn't miss a game for Bournemouth last year. Curse of Tottenham, you know, gets injured in the first game. Richie is Richie. I like Richie. Is he ever going to get fit? You know, so, and that's one of the downs. And the other downside, we play with this very high line. We look very, very open to speedy counter attacks. You know, it just looks very easy. Basically, ball over the top down the channels for fast strikers to run onto. So our centre halves are expected to put lots of fires out. You know, another little caveat to all this, Romero, who's obviously a great player for Argentina, seems to have one lapse of concentration every game when he plays for us. You know, I'm sure that's Ange is finding that frustrating. You know, it'd be interesting to ask Ange, you know, are you prepared? I suppose people have asked him this. Are you prepared to play that high risk football, you know, and not look to take preventative measures, and to be willing to be very open, like a boxer sometimes not keeping their guard up and throwing lots of punches? And I suppose his answer would be yes, you know. And another question that asks is, can you get away with that in the Premier League? You know, it's probably the most ruthless league in the world. I don't think it's quite as strong as it was maybe over the last 2 years, but it's still a very strong league. Everybody knows you get punished for any slight lapse. You'll be brutally, ruthlessly punished, you know. And I think a lot of these teams like Brighton will just be licking their lips, you know, because all these teams, a lot of these managers now, the latest trend and latest development in football seems to me to be moving away a little bit from the high intense sort of pressing game where you bomb forward like mad, keeping possession. You know, you've either got possession, you're swarming all over the team, and then the opposition, then you swarm all over them when you haven't got the ball, you know. And the risk is, of course, you're quite open to you know, to the counter. But it seems to me the trend in football with Arsenal, with Liverpool, seems to be that they're getting a little bit thoughtful. Even City seem to mix it up a bit now. I mean, they've got a proper number 9, and even City never went long, did they, 3 or 4 years ago? City will go long sometimes now, you notice, you know. You know, they can mix it up a bit. And so I suppose in a way, I worry it's just a little bit naive and it's a couple of years out of date. That would be my fears with this, you know. But hey, we've got this guy in here who I wouldn't fancy working at Tottenham as a manager in a way with Levy as the governor, to be honest, you know. You know, so this guy is trying to turn around a huge wave of bad karma that's developed over many, many years. You know, we haven't won anything. You know, Spurs is seen as a sort of loser team, terminal loser team, bit of a laughing stock. You know, obviously the fans are very touchy, understandably, feel the pressure pretty quick, you know, and all that stuff. You know, I think sometimes terrible decisions have been made on regard to the football side of the football club. You know, we've been left short. It's possible you could say we've been left short again in this window, you know, been left short in some windows of players. Some windows we didn't sign any players at all, you know. And sometimes managers, you know, look at Mourinho, but the one time he's got a chance to win a trophy, he gets sacked, you know, 4 days before the final, you know. So there's lots of bad karma. So you're coming into that, Ange, and you've got to somehow wrestle with that. And he seems a very positive guy. I'd love it if he just rammed it all down everybody's throats. You know, love it. I'm sure you would as well. You know, imagine if we do concede a lot of goals, we score a lot more and we win a cup. Well, I'd be delighted. That'd be fantastic. But I think, like all of us, Chris, I'm sure you'll be the same. You can't stand there, watch that sort of football when we're bombing forward like that and not have concerns, right?
Absolutely. And it's funny how you mention the 94-95 season under Ozzy Ardiles, because, of course, I think it was in the November or at the end of October when we played Notts County and we lost 3-0 in the League Cup and he ended up getting sacked. I loved that style of football under Ozzy, I must say. But when you look at it, Jah, we had a fantastic front line. Jurgen Klinsmann, Teddy Sheringham, Nick Barmby, Dumitrescu we signed after the World Cup. Darren Anderson, of course, spraying balls all over the place, assisting. We had a fantastic front line, but we were very poor defensively. Now, I feel like we have got some great defenders in, but we can't seem to be putting the ball in the net and getting the job done, you know, i.e. the Leicester game. And, of course, the game at the weekend against Newcastle. Many people have come out and said, well, if Van der Ven was playing in the Newcastle game, that wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have conceded that second goal. Many people have said, well, if Dominic Solanke was in the team, we would have scored a hatball and he would have been there to tap home. We can't keep relying on one or two players, can we? And what you mentioned there about the transfer window, I don't believe that we have done enough in this window. Ange Postecoglou has come out publicly and said that he's very happy with the window. But when we're playing all these more games in Europe this season as well, I do worry about us, you know, having one or two key players out. We saw exactly what happened last year. It derailed our season after 10 games. So that is a worry for me. Let's get into some of the comments and questions from the viewers. Matthew Ball writes here, and Matthew, thanks so much for all of your comments because you do leave a lot on this channel, so it's appreciated. Jah, Matthew writes, it was a terrible transfer window. For me personally, I don't think it was a terrible window. I just don't think that we've done enough, because in terms of outgoings, I think that Ange Postecoglou can be very ruthless, and I like that side of him, to be ruthless of, you know, offloading players. If players aren't going to work in his system and he has no interest in playing them, then obviously they're going out the door. We haven't seen this ruthlessness, I don't think, from any managers recently, you know, in recent times. Would you agree with that? And what do you take on Matthew's comment saying it's a terrible window?
I can understand it. I can see both sides of the argument. We've had bad window after bad window. We never do enough. Look at that season with Redknapp, which everyone remembers. We needed a good defender and a good striker. We needed to strengthen the spine. And we got Louis Saha and Ryan Nelson, who had been great players in their day, but they were both really coming near to the end of the road, you know. They were both well old, and it was just crazy. You know, and I think if he had strengthened at that point, we could have gone and won something. Now with this guy, Ange is an ideologue. He's got very definite belief. In a way, this is good. At least there's a certainty there. The team to me looks balanced. You know, well, Werner's not as bad as what a lot of people say. You know, I know yet again people criticise these players as being absolutely useless, but he brings some whip to it. Johnson, you know, they've got the new winger in. You know, I've got to wonder, would he really be any better than Manor Solomon at this point? you know, to be honest, you know, Manor Solomon is about. But this guy, you can see why they've signed him. He's young. He's building this young team with width. We've got a guy, Solanke, who's probably the best number 9 for converting chances in the penalty area, right? So he should be there, you know, scoring lots of goals from around the 6-yard box and all that caper. So that's all great. So there is balance there. You've got with the midfield, you know, you can see he's now in home games. He's obviously going to be playing two number 10s. Kulusevski, Maddison seem to be fitting in now. He's obviously going to be playing these young players. He obviously feels that Gray and Lucas Bergvall are ready to go. You know, I mean, he has to think that, because if he doesn't, Maddison and Kulusevski and Bissouma are going to get overplayed and Bentancur, you know. So obviously that's it. When you count the squad up, if you count Lancashire and Moore, Mikey Moore, I think that's like 24 players I think, roughly. So you should have a player for every position, apart from left back, of course, where that was the one that was quite deficient. I thought we might sign a sort of, number 6, but that hasn't happened. I thought we could maybe do with a proper pivot player. At the moment, to be fair, Basuma looks good in that role, and I think Bentancur can handle it, and obviously Gray supposedly can handle it. So I've been very disappointed in all the windows. Promised so much. Every year, round about the time season ticket renewal, we're told about these incredible marquee signings that are about to happen. That's gone on, hasn't it, Chris? Year in, year out. Comes February, March, April, building up to season ticket renewal time, loads of rumours in the press about these wonderful, incredible players. That's gone on for years, and guess what? They never come. This window's different because it's Ange is starting to really get hold of the team, and he's building a team in his image, the kind of football that he likes. There's width, there's function now, there's lots of creativity, there's lots of movement. You've got the inverted fullbacks. It's very easy on the eye, it's lovely football. They're bombing forward, playing it bravely out from the back, and then I guess your defenders, their job, Spurs defenders, defenders hate rushing back to their own goal. Like, don't panic, Mr. Captain Mannering, you're running back the goal. But that seems to be, that's what you've got to be at Tottenham, you've got to be rushing back the goal. That tackle that Dragusin made, which was like the tackle that Ledley King made on Zola or somebody, or I can't remember the Chelsea, maybe Drogba. He did a fantastic tackle on the Chelsea player years ago. You can't get away with last-ditch tackles as a regular method of operating. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm more the Bobby Moore or the Phil Bill, mopping it up calmly, under control, intercepting, facing the play. You know what I mean? So it seems our defenders obviously are chasing back a lot, and he's not going to change. So, let's see. It's not going to change. I think we'll kind of know if this is working. I would have thought by November, and if it's not, they'll be preparing a plan B for a manager that comes in. I suppose the next brief would be somebody who can play an attacking game, but with a little bit more, balance, maybe, sit a little bit deeper, possibly, but. So for me, to finally answer the question, I've been very disappointed in all the windows in the past. This one, I didn't expect anything other than this. He's obviously building a team, as I say, to suit his ideology, his way of playing football, and that's it. And with ideologues, it's either their way or the highway. You bend to their will. Everybody has to bend to their will, and you can see when Ange is questioned, he's slightly taciturn. Well, mate, so if you asked him a question about defensive nuance, he probably wouldn't give you an exact answer to the position in the players. He'd say, "Look, mate, that's the way I am. That's the way I play football. That's it. That'd be the answer. Don't question me," sort of thing. And that's what I did. And of course, if you're winning. If you're getting through, that's fantastic. If you're not, that's another situation. And we all know the fear here. We maybe continue to fire blanks, and then the confidence starts to go, and they're young players, and you could have a real knock-on effect. And of course, the fear is that, if you do start to get into trouble come sort of November, December, you maybe haven't got the quality of experienced players to turn it around. You know what I mean? In the way that when Ramos was another one who was gone. I think we had 8 points, didn't we? He was gone by the end of October, I think, and Harry Redknapp came in. And actually, Harry, you had likes of Dembele. How'd you like that? You can build a team around. You know what I mean? So there were some proper good, strong players there. It worries me that, with the Tottenham, there's something a little bit porous about us. If you put a bit of pressure on us, we'll wilt. Literally with the defence, but psychologically, there's such nervousness around the club. And of course, yet again, it's yin and yangs. He knows that, Ange, and he's doing his best to change that mindset, you know.
Do you not feel that there's been a progression under Ange Postecoglou, though, Jah? Because in the last 12 months, a lot has happened. A lot of appointments, both on and off the pitch. You know, lots of players going out the door, lots of players coming in the door. And when you said that we haven't done enough in all the windows last summer, I felt the window was really decent, a really decent window. We got players out the door. We brought in Maddison, Van der Ven, Vicario, a number.
Yeah,
of
sorry. When I said the windows, I meant up to. Sorry, I meant with the windows up to Ange Postecoglou.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I meant windows. We all know the windows I'm talking about. The incredible window when we didn't sign anybody.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Van der Ven, I really like the look of.
Yeah.
Just from that one YouTube clip of him running back, you know, the full length for the pitch in Germany, and I thought this geezer looks fantastic, and he really is a player. You know, I thought he's fantastic. You know, he's really obviously a really, really special footballer. To be honest, I mean, Richarlison wasn't an Ange signing, but I didn't think Richarlison was you could have made worse signings, but the worst, when the guy actually plays, it can be effective. I know he can look a bit clumsy at times, but always injured, you know?
Yeah, it's frustrating. Chris writes here, I felt that it was a pretty good window, another 1 or 2 in January, and life is good. And Paxton N writes here, please someone tell me what is the point of all this negativity? It's not going to change until January. It's time to get behind the team and believe that Ange has a plan. Jah, how are you feeling right now, though, as a Spurs fan going forward? Because when I sit here, I don't want to be one of those whingy, moaning Spurs fans saying, oh, we haven't done enough, we haven't done enough. The only reason why I say I don't feel that we've done enough in this transfer window is because I want to see the team progress. I want to see the team getting into the Champions League for next season, competing for trophies. And when we've seen what we've seen last year with the injury crisis and various other problems that we had, I just feel that we need that little bit more depth. And when I looked at that bench on Sunday afternoon at St James's Park, 20 minutes to go, we're thinking, right, we need a goal, we need a game changer. And the only game changer, because of course Brendan Johnson came on at half time, the only game changer for me that we had on the bench was Timo Werner. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. But as I said earlier, I guess he feels that Lucas Bergvall and Gray are potential game changers, you know, I guess. And I also think with him that he probably, I heard some interview when he said he doesn't believe in Hail Marys. He's not a Hail Mary kind of guy. So he was, I think, talking in regards to the window, that he didn't want to just go out and just think, well, let's get this guy in. We'll get some name player in who, you know, maybe won't quite fit into my system, but he might nick us those 6 points that will save me my job. He's obviously not that. He obviously really believes in his system, and he wants to bring in players who are young, enthusiastic for that system, won't question it, will 101% devote themselves to it. And I guess he's worried about bringing in players that we might want him to bring in, maybe with the same mindset of Holberg, Pierre Holberg, who obviously a very, you know, whatever people say, a proper good professional footballer and Premiership level. Maybe not with the best Premiership teams, but a good, honest pro, you know, who I think is doing well in France now, you know. Obviously, those kind of guys you suspect would not be, you know, they probably do a bit of eye rolling in the training sessions, and they sort of think, here we go. So they maybe think it's all a bit smoke and mirrors, possibly. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's where, you know, I would have liked a few weeks ago, was hoping we'd bring in some kind of game-changing midfielder, the kind of guy that can get hold of a game and control the tempo. And then it started to hit me, this is obviously not going to happen. You know, what you're seeing is what you're getting. These young players they've signed. He obviously believes in it and thinks that they can do the job. And the argument for his system, you play against Newcastle, were depleted, but they're no mugs, and they chose to sit deep. but we had them chasing shadows for long periods of that game. You know, we didn't look like we could score in a month of Sundays, and not many people mentioned the only way we scored was a bloody own goal in the end. Because it just looked like a completely lack of confidence in regards to getting the ball in the back of the net. You just know that with some teams, don't you? You just know it. Watching early this season, watched Fulham on telly away to Man United, and Fulham were the better team for most of the game. But you just knew United were going to go on to win it because they had that nous, they had the intelligence to win the game, and somehow Fulham just didn't have the belief to score, to go on and win the game.
Joe, what do you make though of all the negativity around Postecoglou, particularly after these 3 games of this Premier League season? Because he's come out and said after that Newcastle game, we've had 3 strong performances. I don't think anyone can argue with that. It is just a problem in that final third. And he has said since he has arrived in so many press conferences after matches, in the final third, there is so much more growth. There is so much more to come in that final third. We haven't seen it. And dare I mention it again, that 94-95 season when you've got players of that quality, Jurgen Klinsmann, Teddy Sheringham, who finished all those chances, were an absolutely fantastic combination up front. In that final third, I don't think anyone can argue that the 3 performances that we've had so far in the Premier League that have been strong, we should be sitting here with 9 points.
Well, but the problem is that's all well and good, and it's true. And it was really great football. I thought it was really wonderful to watch. The way they were switching the play, keeping possession, wonderful. But it's not the fact that we're not managing to find the back of the net, because that happens in football sometimes, especially when you're a possession team. We've seen that before. You get back. We've got great defenders, but look how we defend at times. Look how we defended against Leicester. We could easily have lost the game.
But, Jah, is the main focus now on the defence because the attack are not doing their job? Because how many times have we heard Ange say or, allude to it that, Vicario has even come out and said it as well, that they're not worried about clean sheets. It is always, if we can see 2 or 3, don't worry, we'll score more. But if those players in that final third aren't getting the business done, then, of course, the main focus is then going to be on the defence. Because would we be having this conversation as Spurs fans about the defending if we'd have been sitting here now with 3 wins out of 3?
I can't think of any other serious team that would have a debate like this other than Tottenham. Only Tottenham. Any other team, serious team, no offence, Chris, would just be thinking you have to be able to defend and keep clean sheets. They're the teams that win titles.
But do you like that style of football? Because let me go to a comment here.
Well, it's like asking me, do I believe in boxers keeping their guard up? Yeah. Do I believe in, boxing is good when boxers step forward, throwing quick, clever combinations? Well, yes.
But a lot of people like this. They like this exciting football. Like Wild Man Mountain Jack writes here, we need to remember how horrible it was under Antonio Conte. Would you go along with that? Because the style of football that we had then to the style of football that we've got now. But I'll also give you this stat, and you tell me what you think about this. In the last 31 games under Ange Postecoglou, and this is including the Chelsea game that we lost 4-1, our first defeat in the Premier League last season, up until the Newcastle game, we've played 31 games, we've won 13, we've lost 13, and we've drawn 5. Now that cries out the word inconsistent.
Yeah, well, it turns out work in progress.
Work in progress, rebuild.
Work in progress. If say we go on to have a very successful season, and it's a record-breaking season that a team wins, a couple of trophies, and doesn't keep 1 clean sheet, will I care? No, I'll just be delighted with. I would hope we could go on to keep some clean sheets in the following season, I must say, but I'm afraid the inability to keep a clean sheet is a big deal, but that's something we've had at Tottenham for years. That shakiness, that psychological brittleness. So it's all part of a bigger picture. I must admit, Antonio Conte, people forget that first season the football was fantastic. We'd be playing out from the back. I remember we smashed Newcastle at home, Everton at home. Some great performances, really exciting. And then he got really grumpy, didn't he? It all got really sour. It got, he got really like he wouldn't make any changes in the team. He drove me mad, just playing two in the middle all the time. So every week we were getting outmanned in midfield, and it was a drag. And I must say, with Ange, that I'll say this, and I'm not even saying it between gritted teeth. I'm not an Ange critic as such. I'm not certainly I'm not against Ange. I'm not one of these people who say, oh, it's all fake. It'll get found out.
Last time you were on, you were completely behind him. What's changed?
What's changed is I think I did express some doubts even then. I don't think I was 101%. What bothers me is increasingly with the games last year, and I do go to the games, as you know. I'm not,
Yeah.
So when you're at the game, you can see what you don't see on telly, and what you see is those wide open spaces where the fullback should be, and was so easy to play through at times, One of the things that really bothered me last year away to Everton, where we get monstered with set pieces, with corners especially, and it's like it's as if we haven't practiced defending set pieces at all, And of course, he was asked questions about that. This is the stuff that bothers me. It's as much as anything, it's a really interesting conundrum, But surely the argument shouldn't be you're either for Ange or against. What's changed? It's you could I can look at it and I think have a balanced view. You can see the positives, and you can see the stuff to be concerned about, the possible negatives. But wish him well, wish to say well, and hope he proves absolutely all doubters wrong. Because there must be times, Chris, you're looking at, say, the Leicester game where we fell apart defensively in the second half, concede a very soft goal.
Yeah,
come on, you've got to be looking at that, thinking, how's that allowed to happen? What is going on? To lose control. Where's the game management? To lose control of a game like that. So the most serious teams have a grit about them. They can keep clean sheets. They find a way. They find a way to win. So all that kind of worries me with Tottenham, and it tends to be the Tottenham DNA. As I say, Ozzy Ardiles, only Tottenham are the only major club where you'd get the debate. The debate almost becomes, do you need a defence? Do you need to defend in football? It would only be with Tottenham. Wouldn't be any other team where you'd get this kind of crazy debate, So it's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to get I suspect we'll get the answer to it fairly quickly. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll be sitting in, sort of. I don't think we've got it in us to hit the top four this year. I just don't think we're strong enough for the top four. I think it's down to the top six, and maybe come November, he'll be sitting fifth or sixth, and it's a work in progress. It's all good. But if by that point, he's a few points short of six, I think, the heat will really be on. And that's not me. That's just a fact with Tottenham. That's just a fact. We're a big club and big fan base, and the fans get twitchy at Tottenham, as we know, and a lot of the fans are twitchy there now, But it's silly it'd be silly to go against Ange. And on the other side of things, people shouldn't, criticise people for having doubts. It's perfectly acceptable to express a doubt or two about it. Yeah.
John, let's go to the next point here. Chairman 494 writes, let's take the League Cup seriously this season. It's a trophy after all. Now, of course, after the international break, we face Arsenal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, then Coventry away, and then Brentford at home back in the Premier League. Now, after what we saw last year, that Fulham away game going out of the League Cup in August, how do you think Ange Postecoglou will approach this game? Do you think he's going to go strong? Do you think then he'll bring on a number of the fringe players, the Timo Werners, etc., or the youth players, the development players from the bench, having got the job done? Or do you think he's going to make a number of changes again? Not so many, but do you think he'll make, say, a handful of changes? What would you like to see happen?
Oh, I think he'll make changes. I thought that all the players that have not been starting will start. Surely that's what you do, you know. And he'll have a go at it, you know.
Is that having a proper go at it though? Because I don't know. In all these years, we've seen it with Pochettino. We saw it recently with Antonio Conte away at Sheffield United, putting in these players. Do you not think that Spurs need to go strong in a competition like this?
I think he will. I think he will. I think he'll start with Werner, you know, because look, you have to play these players, you know. You can't play the same players in the league and in the cup, you know, and you got Brentford just a couple of days later. So you've got to start, you know. That doesn't mean to say you play a weakened side. You could still start with Maddison, couldn't you? You know, you could certainly start with Kulusevski. You know, you could still put a decent team out. Instead of starting with Bissouma, you start with Bentancur as a number 6. You know, that's, you know, you could start with, you know, you could start with Solanke. At that point, you might need the game time, you know. But Richarlison is a guy that costs 60 mil, isn't he? You know, he's a decent striker. So you start with him. You start with Wilson maybe on the right, you know. One of the things I'd like to see is Son rested a little bit. I thought he was very decent, actually, against Newcastle. But, you know, you got to use the squad, Chris. It doesn't mean you play a weakened side. It's a cup competitions. You've got to take it seriously, but you've got to use your squad, haven't you? Surely, you know.
But how is taking a game seriously by putting Timo Werner in the starting 11 when you need to win that game? Because
maybe we don't know what goes on in the training ground. Maybe you don't. Maybe you start with Son, you know, and you look to substitute, you know, the likes of Son on the 70th minute when you're 3 goals up, hopefully, you know. Maybe you do start with the strongest. But one thing you have to bear in mind with the amount of games coming up in Europe as well, you have to use your squad properly, you know. I mean, have you got a real downer on Werner? Are you absolutely fed up with him now?
Do you know what, Jah? I think when we signed him on loan originally, I thought it was a really good move from Spurs to have that extra player in. Of course, Son was going to be out. You know, an extra option. I thought it was a good move. When we signed him for another season on loan, I was scratching my head. And I think my turning point with Timo Werner was how wasteful he can be in front of goal. And when he missed those opportunities against Newcastle last season, it's frustrating, and I think that we should be looking at so much better in that final third. But I think in that final third, Ange, like I said earlier, Ange has spoken about it so often about being wasteful in that final third. Brennan Johnson, I think, needs to up his game, although I agree with you. He had a good 45 minutes at Newcastle when he came on, a real impact. Richarlison, I feel, has been so wasteful in the past for Spurs. You've already mentioned that. You know, that final touch, that chance, that opportunity away at Leicester, that should have been on target for me. And when I look at the stats, like Pedro Porro, 8 shots for Spurs so far this season in the 3 games. Kulusevski, only 2. Heung-min Son, 5. I think that we need to be shooting a lot more in that final third as well.
I thought, to be fair, against Newcastle, I thought they seemed to be shooting more. Unfortunately, most of it going over the bar. But they weren't. They some half-decent efforts. I thought they were shooting more against Newcastle. You know, I think the stats would bear that out, you know.
I think it was frustrating both in that Leicester game and that Newcastle game, and even some games in pre-season. We're trying to score that perfect goal. And I feel like Son, who normally cuts in and has that shot, I feel like he's trying to, you know, set up a teammate rather than be selfish and actually try himself.
Well, they seem to be set on being able to get behind the defence and square it. I thought Johnson, who disappointed me away to Leicester, there was one point in it where he had a clear run. Maybe there weren't players up supporting him, but he chose though to stop when he could have run, and he ended up losing the ball, just turned back, But against Newcastle, when he came on, I thought he was really getting behind the defence. He was making good runs. It was looking good. And I could imagine that with Werner on the other side, and this is the game. I think a lot of the instructions of Ange are to get behind the defence and cross it back. That's where most goals come from, I think that's what he's aiming for, At the moment, the quality of the cutbacks isn't fantastic. Newcastle defended their box really well. They were compact. They got lots of bodies in there and everything. But I hear you with the long shots, like Sapporo's got a real shot on him,
Yeah.
Son, I thought was better. He's really disappointed me at times over the last few games, at the end of last year as well. Not quite the same player, I thought against Everton he wasn't terrible, got a couple of goals, and to be fair, against Newcastle I thought he was okay. But yeah, they've got to find more. They've got to find. If I'm the manager, I'm going to say to them, you're the strikers, you've got to find a way. But that's where players have to improvise, don't they? And you got one who can improvise in that way is Maddison, I think.
Yeah.
And Kulusevski always ultimately disappoints me with the amount of shots and the quality of the shots he has and crosses, because he's got such a wand of the left foot, that should be doing a little bit better, So, I can see, and that's why, with the squad, if against Coventry, if he plays the likes of Werner, it's all about the system, about these, everyone's slotting into their role. And I think Werner can do that. He's an intelligent modern footballer. He'll get out wide. I understand what everybody says about Werner. When he's through on goal, you can bet your house on him missing, not taking a chance, it seems to me, a lot of the time. But he's going to have to use the squad. This is it. The window's closed. We've got a lot of games coming up, so he's going to have to mix and match that squad, and he's going to have to. Some of the games, I would have thought he's going to have to be bringing Lucas Bergvall and Gray, Archie Gray on, consistently bringing them on, and even starting some games with them. Yeah, he's going to have to put his trust in them.
Joe, don't get me wrong. Anyone who wears that Spurs shirt, I'm fully behind them, and I back them, and I cheer for them, and I want it to work out for every single player, including Timo Werner at Spurs. But I look at stats a lot, especially when we record these podcasts every week, and 25% crossing accuracy from Timo Werner, and that's why he's in the team. For last season, I just think that he has struggled a lot, and I live in hope that every single player improves at Tottenham under, the manager who's in charge. Can I ask you whether you feel confident that Timo Werner will improve during the course of the season under Postecoglou? Do you think he's going to get the best out of players? And also, if I can ask you another question, the players that he's been working with since his arrival, who do you think he has really improved?
Well, the thing about Werner, I really don't know, I knew it was in the offing that they'd continue the loan. It was basically a bit disappointing, but I don't think he's not the worst player to wear a Tottenham shirt, and I can see why he'd have him, because he can play sort of anywhere up front, so he can play this modern, fast-paced kind of interchangeable stuff really well, So I can see it. I'm not thrilled to bits at this point that he's still there, but we'll see what happens. It'd be down to, if he wasn't a good trainer, then maybe he wouldn't have, Postecoglou wouldn't have kept him on. I would imagine he's got something in his locker that he likes. And as well, maybe for Levy, it was a good deal, I suppose. Maybe, that's part of it. But players, Postecoglou's improved. I think Porro has really come on. Udogie, he's I think, really works on him. I think that inverted fullback role, he's done really, really well with. I think Kulusevski is obviously bringing more out of him because he's playing him in different positions, whereas he was just kind of a winger, wasn't he? Really, he played on the right when he first came to the club. So I think he's getting more from him. And I think apart from that, interestingly enough, it's more a team thing. You know, it's not like you're seeing individual players doing stuff you didn't think they could do. It's more how the team plays at the moment, you know. It's been a funny thing with Postecoglou. Never quite known a Tottenham manager like it. When he joined last year, coming off the back of the boring football with Conte, it was just horrible. It was, you literally couldn't keep your eyes off the pitch those first few games. Will come off against Chelsea. I was there at that game that night. You know, it was horrible. Everything kind of went against us that night. We never quite got it back. And then it got quite turgid at times last year, as we all know. Deficiencies in the squad became apparent.
After that Chelsea game, the team were applauded after a 4-1 defeat.
Yeah, but that's great. You know, I me as well. I was there. I was applauding. You know, I thought it was fantastic. I wasn't that bothered. A few people said that was suicide, playing a high line with 9 minutes. Like, well, it nearly come off. You know, so you know, it was a very brave thing to do.
But you just said you applauded that evening when we lost 4-1, but now you're really worried about the defensive side of our game.
Well, that was off the back of a wonderful run. We had a rub of the green at times there, you know. So now we've had a lot of games, and as the games went on last season, you're starting to kind of see the deficiencies when you're not down to 9 men, and you're really leaking. You know, it's not just the high line. You've got poor defending from set pieces going on as well. You know, so you're bound to get concerned with that. You know, on that night, surely you've got one game where you get 2 reds. You can give a free pass to a team, can't you, on an occasion like that? You've had 2 red cards. You've played a high line, even though you've only got 9 men. You've nearly pulled it off, in fact. You know, Son had that shot near the end. There was the goal. I think it was Dyer's goal when it was disallowed, was it? I think.
Yeah, Dyer, yeah.
You know, it was quite close to being onside. So that's a free pass. That's a one-off. But over the course then of the rest of the season, one thing that's happening is you're losing lots more games. And it is, you know, football's about winning the games. So you're losing lots of games. That gives you the hump. And you're conceding soft goals and you're defending terribly. Yeah. So you're going to have a view on that. You know, you're going to have a view. You know, the Chelsea game, you give somebody like that, a team, a free pass, you know. So, you know, anyone will have concerns. Am I that strange, me and other Tottenham fans having concerns about our defence? If you look at, you know, a lot of the pundits in the football world will have concerns about Tottenham. You know, they'll tell you they just look wide open, you know?
Yeah, I think we've all got concerns, Jah. And it's funny, we had this conversation on one of the podcasts a couple of days ago that if you're super positive about the club, you get called a happy clapper. And if you're calling something out or questioning something, then you're a toxic fan. There doesn't seem to be any in between.
But that's the same with politics, you know.
Yeah,
that's the same with politics now. It's hard to middle, and at times like this, it's people kind of get drawn into a very extreme sort of view because it's kind of harder to step back in life sometimes and weigh up all the different contradictory elements. You know, that's what a smart person does. I'm a Tottenham fan. I gotta see Tottenham. I want to win. I thought the stuff with Postecoglou with the Man City game. I was at the Man City game last year, and I thought there was such a load of nonsense with him that night. You know, well, you know, I've never been so angry. You know, the integrity this club's got to learn to be. And we all wanted Tottenham to win that night, but we've just got a gallows humour that we lose, and Arsenal are our rivals, so we take the mickey and have a bit of fun. But actually, on the night, I wanted Tottenham to win. I thought that was overblown, and you think, come on, you know, everyone, that's sort of picking on Tottenham fans unnecessarily. All fans will be like, West Ham fans would be like that if they were playing a team, and we Tottenham were in with a chance of winning the league, you know, and they conceded to the other team, you know. It's just, that was, I thought, and of course the press gets on it and everyone buys into it. I didn't think he handled that well. It was one of those times I just thought, Ange, you don't need to get into this. Just you know, just kind of palm the question off. Don't get drawn into it, because the media's always got a thing of getting stuck into Tottenham, picking on Tottenham. You got a lot of ex-West Ham sort of people, or West Ham fans in the media, as you know, a lot of ex-Arsenal sort of people in the media, and you know, and we just want some, you know, we want a manager who's going to be on our bloody side, you know, not necessarily on the side of higher principles. We can all have higher principles. Just be on the side of us. Have some understanding towards us. We've been starved of any success for years. I would love this guy to be the one, because if he's not, where the hell do we go? You know, maybe that'd be the next show down the line, Chris. You know, who's going to be the new manager? I couldn't bear it. You know, so you just hope. I hope this guy. I hope Tottenham go on to win all the rest of their games 5-2, 3-2, 6-3, and I'll be happy. I'll be laughing about it. I want us to do well. But it bothers me that I can watch the Leicester game and think, you know what, at half time, when we really dominate, you know what, we could lose this. And then against Newcastle, where we got the goal, it's 1-1. No one really talked about how when we brought it back to 1-1, we then didn't really threaten them for a while, to be fair. Never really did much. You know, we flattered to deceive. And I was absolutely certain of just texting a mate, the Newcastle smash and grab goals, it is due about now. Bang, it happened straight away, you know. So, you know, it was just, we all Spurs fans, certainly of an age, knew that was coming. We've all seen it. But, you know, I just hope, you know, I looked at the squad, okay, for a lot of people, it would be a disappointing window. I can see, can I see balance in the squad? Yes. Can I see that these players will suit the way he plays? Yes, I can see that, you know. So let's just hope he pulls it off, you know. And it's simple game at that point, isn't it? We have to score more than the opposition. His way is like, no, I'm not. I play a high line. I'm all out. I'm not going to change that. So we might as well all buy into it, and the players may as well just buy into it. They do their best as players. I'll do my best as a punter when I'm in the ground. I'm very vociferous. I'm really behind Tottenham, obviously. But in a conversation like this, I'm not going to lie. You ask me, I'll say, well, I feel good about this. I don't feel completely terrible about it. You know, I look at the squad and might disagree with you and actually think I can see the balance in it. I can see the system in it. I do have concerns, though. We're gonna, you know, against Arsenal, Saka and all that getting behind us. Do you know what I mean? You know, these teams will just, a lot of teams will sit back and then hit balls over the top, you know, and Romero seems to have lapses of concentration now, you know, away to Newcastle. It's all well and good against Sheffield United or something at home, charging out, trying to win the ball. That's commendable. It's all well and good finding yourself in the D of the opposition, as he did against Arsenal and scored the goal in the derby last year, you know, when we were 3-0 down, I think we were at the time. That's fine, no problem. Away to Newcastle in like the third away game of the season, when you're really keeping, you know, you want to kind of keep it, you don't want to blink first. Please don't go charging out like a mad number 9, you know. What are you doing? And then not only that, you then kind of don't show urgency to get back in position. Yeah. And plus, there's no one really covering. There's no one being a big brother and looking over their shoulder and picking up that the guy that's, you know, the ex-Leicester player that got banked, what his name is, the guy that got the first goal. They're not there to cover, you know. So that to me is just sort of not serious, you know. And you can have all the great attacking football in the world. You have to take care of that. You can have all the great attacking in the world, but you have to make sure that very early doors your goalkeeper doesn't get bullied, which we didn't do away to Everton. Starting to do now, you know. I think we're looking like we're defending corners a bit better this year. That's one
I
thing
agree.
I noticed. It looked to me like they were doing man-to-man marking as well as zonal in the games against Leicester. I was at Everton at home. I was looking at it thinking, actually, it looks like we're picking men up. They're all picking a man up. That's brilliant. Our attacking corners, like I said earlier tonight, how many corners have we had? I'm not joking. We must have had 30, maybe 40 corners in 3 games. We got 1 goal.
Very dominant. Very dominant in all 3 games. Exactly, Jah. David Williams writes here, why did media poke fun at Ozzy Ardiles' naive and offensive Spurs, but not Ange? There is no difference. But Frank writes here, Ange Postecoglou needs time and patience at Tottenham. Jah, how much time and patience is he going to get from the fans? Because, if, and this is a big if the next couple of results aren't favourable for Tottenham, you've already mentioned he could be under serious pressure. Should he be under that pressure in only his 2nd season when so much has happened at the football club and so much more needs to happen in terms of transfer windows, in terms of development of players?
Well, Tottenham's like a pressure cooker for this stuff. But name me one other Premiership club with any expectations where he wouldn't be under pressure. Yeah?
Well, what are your expectations in this 2nd season under Postecoglou? That's another question for you.
Top 6, win a cup. Yeah, that'd do me. I just don't think we've got it in us for top 4. It was only because of that great run. When we, at the first part of last season, I suspect we shocked a lot of teams. Now they kind of know it. Now you know exactly what you're going to get with Tottenham. That worries me when the opposition knows exactly where your players are going to be on the pitch. Yeah. Surely you want to have a few surprises for people, but yet again, that's Ange. Absolute 100% belief in the way that he plays and the ability to pull that off. So fair enough. And to be fair, you do see little nuances, like, there are little changes of you do see changes of shape at times. He does change things slightly. So it's not completely without nuance, but I don't think we've got the staying power to hit the top 4. Be delighted if I'm wrong. Absolutely delighted. I think the best we can do is top 6, nick a cup. There's no reason why the Europa League. The trouble with the Europa League, of course, Europeans, they're really canny tactically. And I've got a feeling, that they'd look at that and just think, yeah, bring it on. But that would be the one I'd really love if we won the Europa. It would be wonderful.
Jah, how are you feeling about the new format in the Europa League, and what do you make of the draw? Are you happy with it?
Well, it's a funny old format, isn't it? I think it's great that Champions League teams don't come down. I think I can't help but feel it's a really good year to be in the Europa League. You're not going to have the lot, these really big, you get these odd teams that finish 3rd in the group who come down, like suddenly you're playing PSV or you're playing PSG, PSV, or Valencia or something. You're playing whatever is one of the best teams in Spain or something, and now you haven't got to worry about that. That's really good, and it's more like a league system, which I think should suit Tottenham a little bit better, I'd like to think, than the way the groups were. And there'd be some exciting games, Galatasaray away. But if you can go to Newcastle and dominate them, you can go there, and dominate as well. So I've got high hopes, and I still can't help but get excited. And I'd rather have an attack-minded guy, and I quite like him. I quite like Ange. It's not like I don't like him, or I quite like him. I like his way. I think he's sort of forthright, fuss sort of to it. Forthright Aussie. And I hope he proves all the detractors and even the odd doubting Thomas like me prove us wrong. I'm not against him at all. I do have doubts, and I'd be great. I hope in a few months I can say, oh well, what are those doubts about? The guys led us to the promised land. But the pressure is horrible in the English Premier League, especially at Tottenham, because come Brentford, it could be like it could be, you're only 3 games away, aren't you, in the Premier League from the possibility of the sack? You know, he could really be under. Imagine if we don't pick a point up, and you know, by the time we get to the Man United's after Brentford game, isn't it? I think. Is that right? So imagine if we get to the Man United game and we haven't picked a point up, or we've only picked a point up at home to Brentford. Heat will really be on. You know.
That's exactly what I was going to ask, Jar, because that stat that I gave you earlier, the last 31 games, winning 13, losing 13 and drawing 5, at what point do people start to question even more about the results? Because if we don't get the results, but people are still seeing entertaining football, you know, because, you know, let's be fair and honest and frank about it. We did see entertaining football in the opening 45 minutes against Leicester. Everyone was over the moon with that opening 45 minutes, but we just didn't put the ball in the net enough to win the game, put the game to bed.
I wasn't over the moon, because unless you're scoring a goal, I've seen it all before. Unless you're scoring the goals, it's like somebody holding delicious food under your nose, but you can't eat it.
But what I mean by that is when people are saying about the football that we've seen under Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, people are loving this style of play, this style of football.
Yeah, love it, but it's what you call incomplete. So it's like a beautiful picture, you know, of a house on a hill, but the house hasn't got the roof. Yeah, I'm using a Pochettino analogy almost. You know, it hasn't got furniture. You know, but you know, it's so it's wonderful, but it's aesthetically pleasing. But there needs to be a completeness to it, and you need to sort of, you know, I'm sure Ange realised this is football. It's not flower arranging, you know.
But
it's football.
But John, with the patience, everyone keeps saying about you've got to give this, you've got to give this guy patience. You've got to give the brand new manager patience. We said, a lot of us said this, you know, last summer. How much patience do you give someone? What is the right amount of time? Because as you've just said,
the right amount of time is what Liverpool gave Klopp, I guess, because Liverpool got, I mean, Klopp, am I wrong, Chris? You're probably a bigger football fan than me. How long was it before Klopp really built a team? It was more than 2 seasons.
Exactly.
It was more than 2 seasons, but it depends how bad the defeats are in that time.
I suppose my question to you then is, are you surprised by the impatience of the fan base to be the way they are now about 1 win, 1 draw, one defeat?
No, not really. Unfortunately not. You know, at Tottenham, it's very kind of, you know, it's very kind of bad-tempered. A lot of Spurs fans, you see it at the ground, don't you? You hear people say, "You're dog shit," you know, to various players, and it's just like, wow, you know. Or you see people online saying that certain players, the worst fucking player I've ever seen, completely fake, and you think, you don't get to that level if you're completely rubbish. You know, and how would you know this person's fake? You know, how would you know? We get limited data. If we were at the training ground and saw what was going on, then we might have some idea, you know, of stuff, you know, but we're not, you know, so we just have to, in a way, we're like second guessing all the time from afar. You know what I mean? But yeah, Spurs fans, you know, are amongst the most impatient and irascible. And of course, there's a whole backdrop of, you know, you go on social media, real ill feeling against the owners of the club, right? You know, I mean, there's a lot of ill feeling there. So I think that's like a smouldering fire. It's like a volcano it starts to come to the surface and erupt. And it just means a few bad results. And it's like all the resentments of the last 2.5 decades fire up to the surface again. Do you know what I mean? You know, and obviously we all know the club is very well run. I think it's got bigger depth than any football club in the world because of the stadium. But from what I understand, it's very well managed. It's the brand, you know, not the club, the football side of it as much as the sort of stadium. And it's like a brand within brand. Very well run, you know, very profitable. But what's that got to do with me? I'm not interested in that. I don't care. I might as well go and support Sainsbury's or something. Buy shares in Coca-Cola or something. I don't know. You know, it doesn't bother me. I want a football team. And unfortunately, our owners, Levy, obviously, particularly for me, from afar, looks to always make bad calls, looks that I suspect wouldn't care about this stuff as much as we would care. When he says he's a fan, I'm not sure, I don't think he's a fan like us, basically, would be my feelings, just my subjective feeling on it. Obviously, has built the business really well. And you have to think, the season ticket holders at Tottenham have helped support that over the years, haven't they? Year in, year out, year in, year out. And now I get to the point with the club, 66 years of age. I was supposed to get my senior discount last year, didn't. And of course, they're phasing that out now. To be fair, I heard we're not the only club that's hoping to do that. And the message I get from this club that I've loved is very much, fuck off, actually. We'd rather a tourist have your seat, because they'll come and they'll spend a lot more money at the club shop, I suppose, all that stuff. Never mind all the tickets that have been bought over the years and, as a fan. So you feel very kind of pushed out almost, and I think there's a resentment there, I think, with a lot of the fans, not just older guys like me, but some of the younger people. There's a sort of resentment. And I think that gets papered over if you're winning and winning well, all good. But if you're not, and that's the difference with, say, Liverpool, where there wasn't that level of antipathy from some of the fans towards the owners. Do you know what I mean? So there's you've had that brewing up for years with Tottenham. The embarrassment of, you see these signs, 2 billion seconds since Tottenham won the league. You know what I mean? It's horrible. So it's all a bit of a laughing stock, this, that, and the other. And as I say, very well run. It's a very well run brand. The brand's well run. The stadiums are obviously a huge success, and business wise, it's really good. And I'm sure Daniel Levy would love, hey, I'm sure he wouldn't be against us winning anything. I'm sure he wouldn't. Do wonder why he sacked Mourinho 4 or 5 days before a final. I wager Mourinho would have got a result that day, by the way, but never mind. And that would have taken a lot of pressure off of the club, in terms of winning a trophy. Even if it's the League Cup, it's a start. But whatever. So that's the thing with Tottenham. I guess you got this backdrop of bad feeling going on. Resentment that we feel we've never really, always 1 or 2 players short of a really good side. It was a wasted opportunity, this, that, and the other. I mean, when you look, there's counter arguments to all this. When Ennick took it over, the club wasn't exactly prospering. It had a lot of financial issues, hadn't it, going back the decades before then, and so, it's just none of it's happened quick enough for the fans now. They feel it's been 25 years. They would have, I think, liked to sort of owner, to have come in that would have just spent fortunes on the players. And it's one thing with Levy, I guess, that we haven't ended up with this financial fair play problem, have we? The way some teams have. So, there's plus points with him. As I say, I feel, as an older supporter, pretty alienated now. And even when you go in the ground now, you're struggling to feel that deep connection. When your team's winning and playing great football, that helps. It papers over it, and actually all see everything. You can forget all the bad stuff, but when it's not, all that comes to the surface, I think, and it all adds to it. And I think that's the particular. Hope that makes sense what I've just said. When Klopp came to Liverpool, they were great. Obviously, if football fans aren't winning things, they're not happy. But they get fed up with stuff. But Liverpool, had they've got a great history of winning things. They know, as a club, they know the importance of sticking together. They stuck with Klopp. He's a decent guy, Klopp. He's a decent guy. I think, you know, they all got big egos, these guys, but he's a decent guy that resonated with the city of Liverpool, you know, and all that stuff. Ange comes, you know, he's really resonated with the Celtic fans at Glasgow, you know, all that stuff, which is very connected to Liverpool as well. You know, in the pubs there, you'll have all the Celtic scarves and Liverpool scarves up in some pubs, and this, that, and the other, you know. And you know, come to Tottenham, it's a different kettle of fish. You know, you really is if you can pull that off and unify it. I suppose what I'm saying is it's not a happy ship. The supporters against each other, at each other's throats. You know, lots of people are fed up with the ownership of Tottenham. You know, on the football side of things, everybody knows it's a well-run business that's building a property portfolio, and that's, as I say, fantastic. It's no good to me. That's not going to make me happy. You know, someone's building a skyscraper. Whoop-de-doo, fantastic. You know, I want to see us win stuff. You know. And if I was the owner of Tottenham, all my energy would have gone into the club, into the playing side of it. That's where it would have gone, you know, but different kettle of fish, of course. So it's a funny old thing with Tottenham. I wouldn't put it past Ange to pull it off. He's got that about him, and really, you know, somehow turn it round. And, you know, with football, he could come out against Arsenal. We just, fortune favours the brave. We go at them. We play like men possessed, and it all go. They haven't got rice, and on the day they fold, they just can't handle it, you know, because they showed against Brighton they're fallible, you know, and they showed against Villa they were fallible, you know. They were lucky that the Villa centre forward missed those chances, you know. So you never know, and if you suddenly you get on a roll. You beat Arsenal soundly, you play them off the park, you know, the fans get on, you know, really get on to Arsenal. They start getting, you know, they crumble. You know, you really give it everything you got. They go out there, the players completely 100% believing in Ange's tactics, and then you beat Brentford 3-1 at home with a routine victory. Now you're up and running. You go to United with your tails up, you know. So, I mean, that's me. That's the fan speaking. I can't help but speak like that. And so you can hear with me, I'm divided. Part of me just thinks you're being told, fuck off. We don't really want you. We don't really want your salt here, you know. And that's definitely the message you get, you know. That's the message, you know, for sure.
I think it's a big shame, and I think it's very sad that you feel that way, Jah. Gary writes here, talking about Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp took 4 years to win his first trophy at Liverpool, and it's interesting, Jah, because when I think back, of course, our final season at White Hart Lane, 16-17 season, then we moved to Wembley. I think it was in the October of 17. We beat Liverpool 4-1 at Wembley, and we were miles better than Liverpool that day, and miles better in terms of a team and a squad. And then, of course, they went out, identified two key areas where they need to strengthen, and that was centre-back, goalkeeper. Alisson, Van Dijk came in. Of course, you know, they went on to win many trophies under Jurgen Klopp, who done a fantastic job. Mark writes here, talking about the patience that someone mentioned. Can you blame us for being impatient when we haven't won anything for years? I completely agree. I feel like, you know, it's been a very, very, very long time since we have been successful and lifted that trophy back in 2008. It does feel like a very, very long time. I think a lot has changed in that time. You know, I talk so often on this channel about the quality of players that we have had in during that time, the quality of managers we've had in. Pochettino, you know, win now managers, Jose, Conte, you know, they've all left. They've all not been successful at our football club. So, but I do feel like Postecoglou does need patience and a little bit more time to, you know, do what he wants to do and get the players he wants in transfer windows. But of course, as you mentioned, Jah, I feel like he needs the backing from the board in every single window going forward. And of course, it starts in January. Johan Lang and Postecoglou have already said that the planning has already started for January. And I feel like he needs to be back constantly. Tony Ivy writes here, Ange Postecoglou needs to wake up and smell the coffee. This is the Premier League, not the Scottish League, Japan League, or Australian League. The Premier League is the hardest in the world. Joe, what I wanted to ask you, we've spoken about Ozzy Ardiles football, of course, in the 94-95 season. You know, all attack, super entertaining football, but of course, defensively, we were poor, which cost Ozzy Ardiles his job. Another manager that comes to mind more recently in the Premier League, Bielsa. A lot of people loved watching Leeds, loved watching the attacking style of football that he played. But of course, defensively, it ended up costing his job. Do you think that this is going to be the same with Ange Postecoglou in the long run? Because we've heard him say a number of times, he doesn't change. This is the way I play football. You know, that's it.
Well, that's right. And this is the thing. This is what makes me wonder about this pressing, high intense football. This high intense play out from the back, press high a lot of the time, you know, keep possession, move it forward, very intense. And as I said earlier, I think there's maybe seems to be going out of fashion slightly. City of playing a variation on a theme. They're still very impressive. They still really dominate. They like to play in the other team's half, as I saw them against West Ham, and they completely dominated, you know, and all that. But you look at Arsenal, even City are changing it. They're changing it. They'll go a bit long now, you know, for Haaland. They'll go a bit direct. Arsenal, you have to say, they can play the possession game. They can go a bit long, a bit direct if they need to. And they score lots of goals from dead balls, you know, and that always scares me because they're the teams that win the league, you know. In tight games, they'll win it with a corner in the 78th minute, you know what I mean? So they're mixing it up. Liverpool, now Slot's there, they're playing a lot more of an economical style. So football's evolving, you know, and it's evolving a little bit away from this mad, intense, the kind of football you played at, you little boys played at school. You were all told very early on not to all follow the ball, not to chase the ball, not to chase in packs, but to find space to, you know, and all that. I'm not saying, you know, sometimes I'm not saying, you know, modern football's exactly like that, but it has overtones to that. There's like a youthful enthusiasm, you know, with these young teams, and that's why Ange has got these young players in, you know. So my fear is that this is a blueprint. There's nothing more out of date than something 2 or 3 years out of date. I'd rather have something that's 10 years out of date, you know. So yes, it is a concern, and it's a thing with these managers that play this kind of gegenpress or whatever they call it. They come in, you know, the training's very hard. There's lots of injuries at first, and there's lots of, it's incredibly intense, and everyone gets kind of burnt out with it. And of course, they ultimately leak goals at the very sucker punch goals at the very wrong times in big games, you know. So yes, I can see a parallel with Bielsa, because the thing about ideologues, it all gets cult-like. You have to buy in to the ideology 100%. You mustn't have any doubts, you know. You know, to have doubt is kind of, that's a bad thing, you know. And you see that with political ideologues, you know, that the world is seen through an ideological filter, whether they're left wing or they're right wing. They've got a filter, and by God, the world will fall in with those filters, how they see the world, you know. So that's another concern, I must say. I like kind of principled pragmatists, you know.
Yeah.
I like managers who kind of, I like to play like this, but I can mix it up a bit, you know. And you know, I'll work with what players I've got here as well, and I'll compromise sometimes of a system, you know. But obviously with Ange, that's obviously really not what you're going to get. You've got a guy who's not mucking about. It worries me that you could do that in the Japanese league, you can do it in the Scottish league. You might at a pinch get away with it in the Championship. I'm not sure there. In the English Premier League, I think, you know, he had great success. Last year, we, you know, shocked a few teams. They had the rub of the green in that unbeaten run, but I think teams very quickly wise up. Look what happened with Sheffield United. Do you remember they really caught people out? They'd split these overlapping centre halves, and you know, they really caught people out, you know, with really great tactical nuance. but within half a season, everyone's kind of got up to speed with it and knows exactly how to counter it, you know. So that's all some of my fears with this, but I think we're going to find out. I wish we didn't have these international weeks. They're a complete drag. Honestly, I wish it was like international football was kept the way it was. It's too much, and I don't think anyone likes it. You know, it just interrupts everything. But we'll find out. I think we'll find out pretty quickly. I think come the Man United game, we'll have a pretty good idea of where we're going with it. It might be, it's not just a case of, yes, it's going really well. Oh, it's going terribly. He's going to get sacked. I think it might just be a case of, well, you know what? It is going. It's not falling apart. You know, we've come out of those 3 games with 4 points. It's not great, but we've had a good win away to Coventry. And, you know, the feeling is that the club's getting somewhere. You know, it's not falling apart. You can't say it's terrible, you know, and it progresses. But I think we'll have a good idea, actually, by the time the manager's next 3 games, you know, because if over the next 3 league games, and say we get knocked out by Coventry, which could happen, then, you know, you have to think, well, we've seen all this before, you know. And Tottenham, as I say, there's a bad karma at Tottenham, you know, just the fact nothing's been won for years. Lots of people have got really fed up with it and walked away from it. I know a few, you know. As I say, you know, my feeling is, you know, you don't really, you literally don't feel welcome there, you know, literally don't feel welcome. As an older fan there, you know, so you start to lose that, you start to feel you could lose that bond, you know. I'm prepared to give it another season down there. I've been saying that for many seasons, by the way, you know, but, you know, it can go toxic down there because there's a lot, like I say, it's like a volcano. It comes to the fore, all this resentment comes out, and people very, very angry. And of course, it's not down to that's not down to Pochettino. That's down to all the years that have gone previously, unfortunately, you know. And we've all been there. Chris, you've been at it for years. You know the score. How many miles have you put in going to see us disappoint away from home? You know,
a lot. You know. I tell you what, the 2 trips this season so far have been disappointing because I've got back very, very late. Gone to bed at a ridiculous hour. Got up, gone to work. Felt miserable all day. It's been tough, but I'm looking forward to the successful times because it's got to change one day, Jah, and hopefully it is under Postecoglou if given the time, if given the tools.
Well, I'm saying, I mean, I've been critical of the ownership. Look, maybe, as I say, the one wise thing they didn't, you know, we're not, as far as I know, we haven't got any fear with this fair play rule stuff. And that, you know, in the fullness of time, it seems not only football changing in style, but in approach, where you're not seeing there isn't the money anymore for these huge signings. So it seems like Saudi Arabia League's going to come up pretty quickly. It looks like to me they've got the money, but I think, you know, football here is going to, you know, it won't be all about these huge marquee signings, and it's going to be about developing youth and all that stuff. And getting players at the age we have, so, you know, it's all kind of sustainable, and you start to think that maybe eventually, you know, with the solid backing, you know, the solid footing that the club will be on financially, with all the sort of stadium income, this, that, and the other, that once it comes, maybe it'll be like London buses. We weren't one trophy and another 3 will come along, you know. So I hope so, mate. You know. I mean, look, I've got to last year I went away to Fulham, like the bloke down a pub who just can't pull a bird, you know. And this is the one. You're going on a date that night. You're old enough to know better, and you go there full of expectation. And it was a horrible night. You know, we got done on penalties. We got outplayed for long periods. We ground our way back into it. Lost on pens, you know. And it was just a horrible, you know. You just think, oh, you know, come on, mate. You know, we could have won the League Cup, and he played a weakened team that night, didn't he? Put Skip and Holberg in the middle.
10 changes.
And you know, and he wanted to sit. Well, it didn't know. It set them up to foul. Really, they looked terrible. They didn't look press resistant at all. Skip, who's gone now, I'm thinking, God, this guy, when he come back from Norwich on loan, looked like a nailed-on, fantastic number 6. Suddenly, he didn't look like he could hold the ball to Toffee. Do you know what I mean? What an awful night that was. Let's hope away to Coventry, it's not like that, you know.
Joe, you mentioned about the youth, and this is where we'll end the podcast, because Grace and Peace writes here, Belize should have been given time. He shouldn't have gone out on loan. Horrible foresight from Ange Postecoglou. And there is another one. We always identify the right players, but we don't finish the process. This is talking about a lot of the youth players that we have perhaps brought in, or the young talents that we've brought in, and then we end up offloading them on loan or either on a permanent basis because it hasn't worked out and they haven't been given the game time. Surely you can see, though, because I have high hopes for a lot of the development players that have come through the system, certainly in last year. Jamie Donnelly, of course, has gone out on loan. We've actually got 11 players out on loan at the moment. Some great moves for the development players as well. But players like Bergvall, players like Archie Gray, you know, Spurs have been excellent in identifying top young talent. But it is now about developing them, giving them the right amount of game time. And I know that we spoke about the Carabao Cup, but I'm sure that these players will get a lot of minutes also in the Europa League, which will be vital.
Yeah, well, this Bergvall, you know, I'm used to our young players bouncing off of opposition players. They're always lightweight. This guy, he don't look a big geezer, but they all bounce off of him, you know. And he looks the best at retaining the ball we've had since Dembele, right? Unbelievable. So yeah, they look good, and you kind of think, okay, you're sure of the way to go, and that's half of it in life when you have a certainty about the young players you're signing, about the direction you're taking. So many of our youngsters were talked up over the years. Skip, who come through the academy, was going to be a future captain. I thought that was quite a reckless thing to say back then. Yeah, I think I think Mourinho sort of said that, and I thought it was a reckless thing to say he's going to be Tottenham's captain. He's not even there.
Yeah, let me stop you there, because watching him in the under-21s as a 17-year-old, he was absolutely immense. He was way above the rest of the players, both at Spurs and any opposition that he faced. He was controlling every single game. He was superb.
So when he come back from Norwich, he was
absolutely. But
what a joke that suddenly what happened.
But you've got to realise what managers have been telling him to do, what job he had to do on the pitch. I think that he was told to pass a lot of sideways passes. I think he was told to pass back and just try and be that safe midfielder. Whereas at Norwich, you saw him surging forward. Even in the under-21s at that time, he was surging forward, spraying balls here, there and everywhere. He was a completely different player in that first team under those managers.
When he come back to Tottenham after that initial long period, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But, you know, but to me, it was just so much hype to say he's going to be a future captain. Because at the time, you think, really? Because already his performances were dropping off a bit. Then we're told Dane Scarlett is an incredible player. He's going to be such a... And you just think to yourself, how can you say that? Especially in terms of strikers. It's so hard to make it as a striker, you know? In the Premier League, that level from under-21s into the first team is absolutely huge. I know a lot of Spurs fans, they see certain clips, or they go to the odd game here and there and see the under-21s and they say they should be in the first team. But I've seen some of those players move up to the first team, and instantly you can tell that there is that massive gap. That's right. Well, it's the big thing between what's basically still youth football and men's football.
Yeah.
And for me, this Bergvall and this Gray, famous last words, because I get carried away with the best of them. I think these two are ready. I think so. I think Ange Postecoglou is correct when he says they're ready. He feels they're ready, and I think they are. So, and then if you've got a youth, that's this high energy, and they've got that physical strength as well, then fantastic. They both look like they very comfortable on the ball, play their way out of tight positions and all that, So I can't help but be, I'm always thinking if next time it'll be different, we'll get somewhere, Eventually, eventually, as long as there's, there's not a nuclear war and the world ends or something, which is a possibility. I'd like to be cheerful late at night. I like to think, Tottenham will eventually crack it, and when we do, it will be, it'll be a very solid foundation, and the kind of foundation Ange is attempting to lay, I believe, is not just a quick fix thing. It's really aimed at the next 5 years. I can only think he's had assurances from, above and from Lang and all that you're going to get the time. So, but obviously, you can have all the assurances in the world. If you lose a few games, especially at Tottenham, it gets unpleasant. So, yet again, circular conversation. But the next few games we'll see. I hope I'd love to see him, go on from strength to strength. I really would, because where do we go, Chris? So, that'd be the next one, the next podcast we do, maybe. You never know, who's going to come in at Tottenham. You know what I mean? I can't bear it, mate. Would it be a safe pair? Would it be a safe pair of hands? What would it be? What would we be looking for? So I really hope, really hope this guy does it. And let's face it, I'd rather us have lost the way we have on the front foot, having a go, not taking chances. Well, I wouldn't say it's not even taking chances. We're not making the most of opportunities when we get in the last, it not actually, to be specific, in and around the penalty area. We create good opportunities and make the wrong choices as much as anything, When this Solanke's back, hopefully, he'll be I mean, both him and Richarlison, everyone forgets, he's a wonderful one-touch finisher. And that's what you want with this kind of football, right? You've just got to liven up a bit,
72 days it took us to appoint Nuno Espirito Santo. I'll tell you, I don't want to be going through any of those times again.
Well, there's certain benchmarks, Chris, certain games away to Crystal Palace that Gallagher run the game for Palace that day, Yeah. And it was just, that was the low mark. And we were top of the league, I think. Yeah.
We'd won 3 out of 3. It was Emerson Royale's debut, and Emerson, of course, on the right-hand side, right next to the away fans, and every single away fan, including myself, was shouting at Emerson, "Go on, take him on, put the cross in." He didn't take anyone on, and he didn't put any crosses in, and everyone was thinking, what?
Yeah, he's a Brazilian. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock. His ball in was terrible. I felt sorry for him because he wasn't. Yet again, that Gilberto, was it Gilberto? We had a Brazilian fullback, remember, in the noughties, who literally looked like he couldn't kick a ball. Only Tottenham. I think it was one of the first Brazilians we ever had play for us. And I think he was that bad, Emerson, to be fair. He wasn't that bad. He had a good engine on him, a bit of an athlete. Still can't believe he come from Barcelona. You would have thought he come from, I don't know, you would have thought he come from a championship side somewhere. Do you know what? Or first division side somewhere. He was like a strong athlete couldn't put a ball in, not really a footballer's brain.
He's not had the best start in his AC Milan career either, but we do wish him all of the very best in the future.
I saw something on Twitter, some AC, and I didn't even want to look. I just thought, oh God,
you need to look.
I thought he'd do. I will then. I thought he was going to do well over there because I thought he'd be very strong. I thought he'd be an athlete and he'd do a good job there. So you have to say, with Levy, he probably done well, got good money for him as well, I would have thought. So, and I'm glad, by the way, Spencer stayed. I don't know why. I'm just glad he stayed. I'm glad he's there and been given another chance. And I'm a bit surprised that under the circumstances with Reguilon that he doesn't sort of just, surely he's good enough to play away at Coventry, mate, isn't he? Surely he could play that inverted fullback role, yeah?
I don't think that relationship is there though, Jar. That's the problem.
That's it, yeah. I guess that's what I think it's about. And Jed Spence obviously said and done the right things in training, had the right attitude. But I thought Reguilon, was not defensively not that great. But you would have thought, as an inverted fullback on the left, as an understudy to Udogie that we could have kept in for another season. But maybe they want to cash in now, the Turkish league or something, I suppose. You know, there you go.
A lot of people have actually given that view on this channel. A lot of the listeners and the viewers. Jah, you've been an absolutely wonderful guest. Thank you so much for your time. And
I've really enjoyed it, Chris. It was great to talk with you, mate. You're knowledgeable. I'm sorry if we should have answered more questions from people, but you know, yeah.
There are always hundreds and thousands of questions coming in, Jah, and that's what I said to you before we started. There's no script on this. It is all about what the viewers and the listeners want to talk about, what they want to ask us. But yeah, we could have probably got through more, but you can talk for England, which is great for the podcast.
Yeah, well, I do still, you know, I've got a lot to say about it, and you know, I feel a lot for it, and I'm very split at the moment, as you can hear, but onwards and upwards, and you know, they've got to come out against the Arsenal and really have a go at them, you know, really have a go at them, get on the front foot, get right at them, you know, and just show they can play better, they can match more than match them at our place, you know.
Can I ask you lastly for a very honest score prediction for the Arsenal game?
4-1 to Tottenham.
4-1.
Yeah.
Wow, what a way to end the podcast. Jah, thank you so much. You've been a great guest. Where can people find you on social media, and what are your next tour dates and venues?
I'll have a look at jahwobble.com. My website's got the dates up and all that, but the real Jah Wobble on Twitter. I mainly do Twitter still, you know, out of all of them, that's the one I kind of understand. So I mainly do Twitter. Real Jah Wobble. You've got me pinned tweet there. You've got all the dates. And Real Jah Wobble on Instagram. I put me photographs up there and one thing and the other. So yeah, and we've got London. We're playing some gaff I've never played before near Tottenham. Somebody was telling me some brewery, some new venue. So I'm looking forward to that. You know, I played under the bridge. There's Abramovich, a lovely venue under it. So I played there, and the people at Chelsea, they said to me, "So you have been, and you support Spurs. You must have been here many times to here." I said, "Been here. I've been slung out of here more times. I've had hot dinners, mate. You know, yeah." So that was very nice, to be fair. You know, it was it was the nicest. They were very nice how they treated us, you know. But a lot of my mates wouldn't come to that show because it was at Chelsea, you know. They blew it out, which I can understand, you know. But anyway, the people were very nice. But you know, so this is some new venue, some brewery that's up near Tottenham. Somewhere near the stadium. I'm not sure. I think it's maybe a bit more over at Walthamstow. But anyway, we're playing now, and we're playing all over the country. So yeah, come and see us. Good. It's a great band. It's a great band, you know. And come on, you Spurs.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jah. Good luck with the rest of the tour. As I say, you've always been a fantastic guest when you come on here, and we look forward to having you on again in the very near future. And let's hope that Spurs can beat Arsenal after the international break. And we're all smiling
4-1, mate. 4-1. I think 4-1 and onwards and upwards. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fantastic? Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, come on, you Spurs.